Yeah.
Right, I mean, you could.
I would just like to add.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I would like to add that last week at the Neighborhood Association meeting, I brought this up and I asked the police officer, can you just get out of your car in the morning and in the afternoon and make sure the kids are getting to school okay? Can't you just walk it? I mean, I've never seen a police officer walk the path. I don't understand why. And he said, you know, that's a fantastic idea. We're going to work on that. But so far, they haven't gone out. And that was a week ago. I was crossing my fingers. So, if we could just maybe have, some impetus, I don't know, talk with the police, just say, get out of the car, go twice a day, get to know the camps. Tell them this, you can't camp here. This is not a sustainable place to do this.
Zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance in the school zone. Yeah. So, okay. Are you done? Oh, okay. Okay. So I don't know if the multi-jurisdictional, I guess that's for everybody, but.
So I'll do my best to remember all the questions. First of all, I'm not sure exactly what a transportation improvement district is. Per the previous question, I'd be interested in learning more about that. The multi-jurisdictional approach, absolutely imperative that we do that. We actually had two good examples just in the last few weeks where we began to work with the with ODOT, with the police, with TriMet, and other bureaus at the City of Portland to coordinate our efforts. The first was around I-84 inbound. My office was getting a lot of complaints from people about what they were seeing, particularly around trash and garbage and stuff on I-84. We were able, through my office, to actually coordinate with ODOT, and we agreed that it was actually a good model to build on. We used that model most recently, I think in the last week or two, around 92nd Avenue. And that was largely as a result of the Neighborhood Association leadership coming up to meet with me
and she works with the city
and identifying
on
that
dealing
as a
with
critical area. So we got together with TriMet and ODOT, and we actually did do some
She works
cleanup
with
in
the
that
mayor's
area.
office.
And so I think we've begun the process of actually collaborating better. 92nd and Flavel. And well, thank your neighborhood leadership. They were the ones who showed me the chart, and I agree. It's the problem is there are all these jurisdictions, and we have not yet really worked out a plan for how we coordinate and work together. And while I'm sympathetic to the fact that ODOT only has two guys, it's a new day and we have new issues confronting our city. And just as I have committed to a community policing model, they need to commit to making sure that their areas are safe as well. And so we'll work with them to help them do that. I want to thank Mark Jolin from the joint office, the city and the county's joint office. This was our effort starting about a year and a half ago to begin to coordinate our funding and our priorities and our services with a bunch of nonprofit providers. And it's made us much more effective and much more efficient in terms of how we address these things. But now we got to broaden it to some of these other government jurisdictions. Kids safety, agree 100%, and there should be areas where we are carving out a complete safe zone for young people who are walking to school for everybody's protection and safety.
Can you talk to the police?
I plan to do that. I go to enough roll calls that they're well familiar with my desire to get them out of their patrol cars and back onto walking beats. This is how it is done all over the country and all over the world. And it is, as I said, the best practice for reducing crime and building up support and trust with the community. And I'm sure they would agree, as I would, that this is a time where building trust with the community would be a very good thing.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so we had, of course, we had tons and tons of questions about RVs and parking enforcement. And as you are probably well aware of, Lents has one of the highest complaints regarding RVs. At least that's what the wonderful people that work at parking enforcement tell me. And I have to give a shout out to them. They are hardworking people, and I call them every day, and they don't even ask my name anymore. They know my voice. So we have just a lot of questions about, can we, in high impacted areas, such as Lents, with taking a disproportionate share of this parking and the abandoned cars, is there any way we can have more dedicated, maybe even 3 hours a week, where they do a round of the high impacted areas? A better coordinated effort. It seems like it's so willy-nilly. You'll call and they'll drive right by a stripped car while they tag one that was called in the queue 3 weeks ago. And when they could just go right next to it. I mean, we all see this, all our reporter people. It's very frustrating. So is there anything that can be done about that?
Well, I'm Dan Saltzman. I'm in charge of the Transportation Bureau, as well as the Fire Bureau and the Children's Levy. So this really speaks to some of the core functions of our Transportation Bureau. And I think the quick answer is we can do a better job, but by the same token though, we are overwhelmed by the number of abandoned vehicles in this city, and you're right, the Lents neighborhood has the largest number of abandoned vehicles. We had, in 2012, we had the total of 7,000 abandoned vehicles citywide. In 2016, we have 27,000, just to give you an idea of the problem. So this council has supported additional funding to have more officers who are charged with enforcing abandoned auto rules and regulations. We actually funded a program to start recycling abandoned RVs, and that's going very well. One of the problems with towing RVs right now is our tow lots are full. So the private contractors we have no space to put them in. So we are working with, looking at new ideas, but also working with the tow contract operators to identify additional properties where the abandoned ones can be stored. But probably the biggest problem that speaks to the issue that bothers most of you is, and this is where we come up short, and that is 90% of the abandoned vehicles are not really abandoned, they're occupied. And we have a policy that we don't kick people out of no matter how dismal the situation.